What's up, Reapers? Welcome back to the crypt. We gotta get a couple more things down. Um, um, I, I was originally gonna do a video on Cannibal Corpse, but I messed up my notes, which are right here. I need to rewrite some stuff. Write down years, and then also I want to make sure I have lineup changes, and I can't remember all of them off the top of my head. So that was probably dumb. Move you guys right over here. And before anyone asks, yes, I am wearing Black Anvil shirt and hoodie because I don't give a fuck if you think it's corny. I love when I get to match a shirt and a hoodie. These are some albums and shit that I've been re-listening to, and most of them are actually favorites of these bands. Or like they became favorites after re-listening. Some of them you may be shocked by, others not so much. First one, I'm actually seeing these guys Friday with Cynic, Atheist, Unquestionable Presence. Absolutely adore this album, and at first I was kind of disappointed that I got this art on a shirt, and I was like, it's whatever. But then I like re-listened to the album after I saw them last year. I can't even begin to tell you how much I love that. I'd also like to point out that I finally got the playlist of a show I saw this year done. Not all of the bands, because I don't remember one or two of the openers. However, I will say, that I don't really care that I don't have the openers. Mostly because, one, I have to wait longer for their album to drop. Also, they weren't like on the main bill, so I was like, all right, I can do that. But anyway, and that will have something to do with when the album's coming here shortly. Next up, we have my favorite Amon Amarth album with Odin on our side. And by the way, when I say these are my favorite albums, by the bands, not of all time. With Odin on our side, this album is so good. I don't know why, but it just grasps my attention. And Under the Northern Star, I think, is the song. Holy hell, I just love that. Next up, Immolation with Atonement, however the fuck it said. Yeah, great. Did I just say Immortal or Immolation? Immolation. I am not huge, or I wasn't huge into Immolation, and a lot of people were praising this album, and at first I thought it was okay. I thought Dawn of Possession was better, quite frankly. And then I re-listened to it, and I was like, huh, this clicked with me. I don't know if it was just one of those, like, I just wasn't in the right headspace or what. Next up, this is my favorite album by the band, but I also want to point out that their debut full length is like one of my favorites in brutal death metal, which sounds really weird, I know, but Devourment Conceived in Sewage. I cannot get enough of this. Every time I'm in that slammy, brutal death mood, it hits the spot. Next up, I'm not into power metal much, but Blind Guardian's Twist in the Myth is absolutely my favorite. I really like Dead Sound of Misery. I just wish it wasn't like exclusive to CDs, but I also understand like, you buy CDs and you can get cool things like that. Sorry, I had like a little scratch in there, which is it. So I was talking earlier about one of the shows. So it was actually Possessed Uada, I think is how you say it, and the Black Mariah. I absolutely love the Black Mariah. My dad was not into it as much, but we both really loved Uada. Like, my dad will almost every time we have a concert or we're in the car and I'm like Bluetoothing, DJing, whatever. He'll be like, play something from Uada, and they finally released a song from their upcoming album, and I actually asked them, like, hey, what was your set from this night? They reached back out. They were so nice, and but that's not who I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about the opener, which is a crossover thrash band from Detroit, and my God, I feel like the Detroit anger, if that makes sense. Like, I live an hour from Detroit, so um trust me when I say I've been there a lot in the last year. um there's like a certain like energy that a lot of these bands have, that I hear and feel, and this band absolutely gets golden star of approval. Manic Outburst with Violent Agitation. I'm really pissed I never got a shirt. Well, I couldn't actually get a shirt, let me say that, because I would love to have the CD, which actually the singer was really nice and was like, hey, for the trouble that I just caused you, just have the CD, don't worry about it. I would rather you have the CD than we have the money, or I have the money, or whatever, because we care more about the fans than money or anything else, which I thought was pretty fucking cool. Power Struggle, Violent Agitation, Beer on the Mosh Floor. Oh man, great guys, really kind. Next up is a death metal classic. This album finally clicked with me, and for so long I never understood the hype around the band, and it actually took me a while to get their latest release when it came out, like a day or two, because I was like, okay, but then I was like, alright, maybe I'm looking too much into this, and I finally just threw it on, and it was one of those. I was working. I think with my work and my energy, it just somehow all of a sudden just made it work, because work tends to be how I listen to a lot of these albums. Um, through streaming. I know a lot of people will be like, "Oh, but you complain about streaming." I do it within reason. I do it when I don't have my CDs and I don't have the amount of money it would take to even get them all on Bandcamp. And then on top of that, some of these I had before I even knew what Bandcamp was, really. But this is Obituary Cause of Death. I absolutely adore this album, and I know people are like, you complained about people saying that you can't have same favorite as other people, but yet, yeah, but here's the thing. I usually said Slowly Be Rot was my favorite. This absolutely just dominated that, finally. It finally clicked, so. Next up is an album that came out last year, and if I actually got it last year, it definitely would have made my top 10 at least. Pharmacist with Flourishing Extremities on Unspoiled Mental Grounds. This is like filthy gore grind, death grind, whatever the fuck you want to call it. And it is just I don't even know how to describe it, really. Next up, this is just one of my favorite bands, and it's really hard for me to say that this is my favorite because people are always like their debut was their favorite, but then I'm like, but no one talks about this album, but then people say that this album's overhyped. This is Suffocation Pierced from Within. I think everyone fucking knows this. Um, Again, this is just stuff I've been jamming recently. This has definitely gotten high rotation, and I feel like it, I actually realized I missed an album. I've missed a lot of albums, but there's only so much, and I only own so many of these. Actually, this next one is probably been in the most rotation, I want to say. Falls Out by Steel Panther. I'm not even kidding when I say, like, since the day that I was gonna go see them, and I did see them, I kid you not, I ended up commenting on Classy Metal Lonnie's Instagram post for that day. I forget what, but I was like, I'm trying to get ready for Steel Panther tonight, and was wondering what your favorite one is, and he's like, probably Balls Out. And I'm like, huh, maybe because I'm like, a lot of my favorite songs are on here, like Just Like Tiger Woods, 17 Girls in a Row, If You Really, Really Love Me, Tomorrow Night, It Won't Suck Itself, uh, Let Me Come In, or Weenie Ride, but Gold Digging Whore is definitely my favorite track off this. I remember just like absolutely loving it. Like every time I'm just like, I don't know what to listen to, I throw this on, immediately my mood is just like, whoop. I don't care if I'm pissed, sad, whatever. It's one of those albums. Next up, this is my favorite album ever from this band, but they have so many that, like this is my favorite album period from the band, but their second album of their first three albums is my favorite, and people might be like, well, which band is it? This is Metallica. Self-titled. I remember Count Blagroth said this was his favorite, and kind of shocked me and made me kind of want to actually revisit this, because I remember loving this, Hardwired, and Master of Puppets, and Ride the Lightning in ninth grade. Don't get me wrong, Master of Puppets is still one of my favorite thrash metal albums of all time. However, I'm looking at my Metallica poster right over there. I find it. How do I put this? How do I put this? I find that a lot of people are like, oh, it's only popular because of Enter Sandman and The Unforgiven and yada yada yada. Ironically, my favorite song on here is also Sean Count Plague's favorite song on it, which is The God That Failed. And I don't know how that happened, because I remember when I re-listened to that song specifically, I just kind of put it on repeat, and I just remember just kind of being like just nodding my head to the beat, and I don't know why, but then it's just like, huh. And every time I listened to it, I just immediately knew when The God That Failed came on, and I would even like start singing at work and whatnot. It was, I don't know. I, like I said, I'm not a copycat or anything. I just tend to like to listen to what other people's favorite album from a band is, and maybe it causes me to revisit something like that. I never want people to think that like, oh, I'm gonna say this just because this other person said it. No, I legitimately give everything a chance, and even if I'm like, oh, that's a weird choice. I don't know why you would ever choose that when this is clearly significant. Well, like this one, I actually think is better than the band's most popular one, Insomnium, One for Sorrow. I love these guys when they opened for Enslaved with Black Anvil. Like so much so that like I said, I ended up asking the guy up at the table like, hey, new to Insomnium, which album should I start with first? And the guy behind me actually overheard me and was like, oh, choose this one, which I do have on the shelf back there. And then he's like, did that one as well, and I did. Pretty good. Next up, this one really grew on me. Entombed Left Hand Path. I never thought I would actually say that this is becoming one of my favorite death metal albums ever. And before people just go, oh my god, what does he mean by that? Oh my god, that's blasphemy. I always thought that people were overhyping it. I remember hearing the intro where he goes, ah. I can't do it. But that little scream at the beginning of the title track, and then the but then I kind of put this up a bit at on my CD player, and I just kind of listen. I have my phone off, and all of a sudden, it just clicked. And I remember re-listening to it and re-listening to it and re-listening to it. And every time I'm in the mood for like old school death metal and I don't know what to listen to, this album gets the job done. Along with this album, this is definitely, and like I've said, I got a lot of favorites, and these are mostly my favorites. Dying Fetus with Descendant to Depravity. Absolutely love this album. It used to be a wrong one to fuck with, but this and Reign Supreme have really been up there for me. Mostly this one. Reign Supreme is still iffy for me, but I just cannot get enough of this album. Next up, before people ask, yes, I heard the news. I listened to the new single. I actually ordered a wallet from this band and just ordered a new shirt, which may or may not be good, but what can you do? This will be my second time seeing them this year. Or not this year, but this year will be my second time seeing them, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Cannibal Corpse, Evisceration Plague. I keep putting this on every time I'm in that mood for Cannibal Corpse. I think there's no more tie between this and Wretched Spawn. It's still really hard because, like, Wretched Spawn is good, but I don't know why, but Evisceration Plague just has more catchy songs, I guess. Next up, I'm wearing the band. And for a long time, last year's album was my favorite, but then I re-listened to this, and Triumvirate, I think is how you say that, absolutely um, dominates this. And I actually messaged them the night I saw them, and I was like, yo, can I have your set list from tonight? Y'all put on an awesome show. I bought a fucking t-shirt, a long sleeve, 3 CDs, a hoodie, and a hat, which I actually have out in the kitchen because I wore it earlier. And they were like, sure, here it is, respects, 666, all that. And holy hell, I was just freaking out that I even got a DM back after a show. But yeah, this album, don't get me wrong, Regenesis is fantastic, but this just has kind of like that more pissed off, thrashy anger, I guess. And lastly, this is 1-3 of my favorite albums from this band. Carnifex, Die Without Hope. I keep putting this on if I want like a more straightforward death metal album from a deathcore band, but still like wanting those heavy as hell breakdowns. It's this Dark Heart, Slow Death, and Hell Chose Me, I want to say, are my 3 favorites. And like I said, these are just albums I've been listening to a lot lately. If you want to know my favorite track from here, Dragged Into the Grave is actually the song that really got me into Carnifex. I love the intro line. These are your inner demons. Yeah, that's just brilliant. There's obviously a lot that I could have said here, and don't get me wrong, guys. It's hard making a list, and there are plenty I could have said here. I mean, I completely ignored Creators, Phantom Antichrist, and Gods of Violence. If I had Ministry's Filth Pig would have been in there. Just so many are here, but I only have so much that I can show at once. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for subscribing, and as always, keep it grim.